Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and in this episode, we are going to talk about a film called The Ritual, which is a British horror film starring Rafe Spall, and it's from a first-time director. Well, first-time feature-length director. I looked him up. I was curious. He done like a segment in Southbound. He did a segment in VHS.
Oh,
So he's been in some horror anthologies, but this is his first full go of it. His first full turn, if you will. But yes, so we'll start spoiler free as we always do, and we'll give you warnings somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers. Uh, the Ritual is about a group of friends who go on a vacation to Sweden, and they go hiking in the woods in the hills. Uh, Partly as a tribute, they had a friend who died
yeah.
before.
I was gonna say like vacation makes it sound a little like funner than it kind of is.
Funner.
Yeah,
I think that technically that's a word, but I just
yeah,
yeah, um,
more fun, whatever.
yeah, sure. But to be fair, they were talking about going on a trip before that happened, which
Right.
is not a spoiler that someone died. That's kind of the premise of the movie, is that they're
Yeah.
there to honor his memory. So they go up to this hill in the middle of nowhere in Sweden and give him a little tribute and send him off. A ritual, if you will. Uh, that's not what the title's referring to, though, for the record. But one of them gets a hurt ankle, and they want to try and get back to the lodge. There's a lodge that, it's maybe 2 days. They have to camp one night, on the way back. But in an effort to cut that journey short, to make a shortcut, instead of going around the approved trail, they try and cut through this dense woods. And of course, things go wrong. They find a creepy cabin with creepy symbolic things in it, and there's maybe something happening in the woods that's creepy. And I don't even really want to say any more than that. I feel like any
Yeah.
more than that is in spoiler territory. But there you go. That is the general premise of the ritual. So Tim actually couldn't stop himself from telling me yesterday just his general feelings in the matter. But I'll ask the question for the
Yeah.
audience at home. How did you feel about the ritual?
Holy moly! I loved this movie. I went into it completely blind. I don't remember if I saw a trailer. I feel like someone brought this up before. Maybe you tagged me in a post or something
Yeah.
about it before, but I really didn't know anything about it. Actually, it was I watched it with Melissa on Friday night, and we queued up Netflix, and we were just gonna watch like a Cloverfield Paradox, which thank God that instead we saw this pop up, and I was like, oh hey, do you want to check this out? And like it was funny because like slowly on Friday I started seeing people like before I was about to watch it, like kind of start popping up like on like the ritual. Oh my god, this movie. Oh, blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. And I freaking loved it. I think it's the like story wise and character wise, there's not like a ton going on. I feel like it's very simple, like, but just similar to something like The Witch. I just feel like this is so atmospheric and looks so great. And again, don't want to spoil too much, but once creepy stuff starts happening, I was totally hooked and all in for it. So, yeah, without gushing too much, I will say huge thumbs up for me. This is great. The first great movie of the year, probably the best movie of the year. Who knows? We'll see.
Oh, that's not all these bold statements. All these bold statements. Okay, where do I start with that? Um, See, I want to troll you so hard right now, Tim. I really want to troll you so hard. No,
I, I'm okay if you don't love it, but if you say that you don't at least kind of like it, I will quit right here and now.
no, I actually liked it a lot.
Whew, okay, thank God.
Yeah, you're good. This is not like, because I remember we did that movie like 2 years ago, The Hallow, where you were raving about it. You'd already seen it. You were like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever, Peter. You're gonna love this. It's great. It's great." And I watched it, and I thought it was really mediocre. And it was just, it made for one of the most awkward reviews we've ever done, because I just thought it was meh, and you seemed to love it, and it was like mostly like it was like you were defending it, but you weren't like really fighting me on it. It was weird. Uh,
I think there's some movies like that I like, but like I can tell
yeah,
that it might not be everyone's cup of tea. This is like the kind of movie where I love it, and if people don't like it, it's like, all right, well, you're a bad person. Like, okay, sorry.
yeah,
Sorry you
it's
don't understand what's good.
and yet there's other reviews like The Boy where you choose that hill to die on, where you're like, no, you're going to stand there and you're going to fight me on every legitimate complaint that I throw at you, and
Yeah.
it's one of those
Well,
things. Um,
that's the kind of movie that you look at yourself in the mirror and you understand that you are a unique, beautiful individual, and you can't let other people's comments bring you down.
here's the thing, right? I enjoy when I hate something that you love. I enjoy that. What I don't enjoy is when I am meh on it because it's just not as fun. Remember the
Yeah,
wailing?
that's
You
tough.
you
Yeah.
loved the wailing, and I was just kind of it was okay, but I didn't
Oh
love it.
yeah. Yeah.
Like it makes for an awkward conversation. But when I hate it, when I actually think it's legitimate garbage, and for some reason you're delusional and you like it, that is where the entertainment
Well,
value comes in.
well, because yeah, like if you're both at like opposite ends, then you can have like a fight about it, and not like a like a oh I hate you fight, but like a good spirited debate. Whereas if you're just in the middle and someone's like three quarters or something, then it's kind of more just like yeah, we're kind of just dancing around,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's not as exciting. But
yes.
I'm glad to hear that that you enjoyed this because I thought that you would, but you never know.
Actually, because I think what it does is right from the get go, like you say, the character story is kind of simple, but it's actually solid, and I think that's actually something that we are so used to watching bad horror
Mhm.
movies where the character story is not solid. Whereas this,
Well,
right at the start, it sets up what the theme of the movie is. It sets up what the main character's kind of like his thing is, what he's feeling, and it's about his guilt. It's about him feeling like a coward because he didn't intervene. Because when we said that the friend was dead, he was killed. They happened to stumble upon a shop being robbed, and these muggers like attacked him, and he was there but didn't intervene. He was sort of hiding, and because he was out of sight, he just stayed hidden, and that kind of
yeah,
sets up the themes of the movies where he's too scared to act.
and I feel like it's such like a real moment because like he's like gripping this bottle of like alcohol, and
'Cause, yeah,
the hot
he's thinking about it. He's thinking, oh,
yeah.
do I jump out
'Cause
and hit this guy with
yeah,
this?
like the Hollywood thing to do is, you sneak around, you hit the guys in the back, or you stand up, you say a one-liner, and you throw it. But no, it feels like it's a very real like thing where he's cowering and he's looking at his friends, and they make contact real quick, and he's like, you can tell he's like, I want to help him, but I just can't. And I feel like that's what a lot of people would do.
Yeah,
And
it feels real, and I think that opening said to me right from the start, okay, this director knows what he's doing. Like, this
yeah,
director gets how to handle these moments. It's a really well shot sequence, and then that's kind of my big praise for the rest of the movie, is that it's just really well directed. It does the creepy stuff really well. You see something moving between the trees in the distance. When they find like like symbols and stuff and like weird artifacts, almost Blair Witch-esque looking stuff. Like it feels kind of creepy. It looks interesting. It looks okay. What is this? Um, and I could easily see this exact same plot in a different director's hands being a complete mess.
oh, 100%,
I
yeah.
could easily see it. I don't think there's anything about the plot that actually makes it work. It's how it's handled. It's the look of things. It's the way it's shot. It's the way it's paced out. It's the way
Mhm.
it affects the character's kind of journey and what he's feeling and his own emotions and all that stuff. So
And I think it's like it kind of harkens to again, kind of comparing it to The Witch, like that movie, really, really simple premise. Like you can't sell people on the premise because there really isn't one there. It's just it's a very simple story. And like same thing with this. It's like you can't really describe it to people. It's just like you just have to watch it. Like once you watch it, like you get caught up just in the atmosphere and the way it looks
oh,
and like
speaking of
everything.
speaking of atmosphere, the 5.1 mix in this, my subwoofer was going absolutely nuts at certain points. It was ramping up the bass something awful.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I watch this on like a computer. Like I don't really have a good home system set up, unfortunately. But this was actually one that kind of like made me pissed that it wasn't in theaters. Like I would have loved to have gone to the theater to see this. It
Hmm.
like it looked great, and yeah, like yeah. Unfortunately, I don't really have a big TV or speakers or anything. But and for the most part, I don't really care about that stuff. But this is something where it does look so great that I would love to have had that theater experience.
It's very atmospheric. It's very um, yeah. I mean, it's slow, but it's intentionally slow at building. And I
Yeah.
think it does a really good job of slowly building, and it very much pays off. It's not like it cock teases you at the end.
Mm.
Like the last couple of minutes to the movie, like it's fully showing you all of its hands. Like
Yeah.
it keeps revealing just a little bit more, and then when you get to the end, it's like here,
Yeah.
have it in your face.
And I'm usually more the one who like complains about stuff like, oh, they didn't show the stuff that I wanted, or oh, it was too slow. But like this
It comes at
had
night.
me. Yes, that is a bad example of you know this kind of movie.
No,
This is a great example.
it's a good example of you not getting that kind of movie.
This was so well done though. Like I was enraptured, yeah, like pretty much from the start. And yeah, like when it does get creepy, it like feels like it's so well earned. And
Do, do,
even
do you know what
like
I like the opening scene with the robbery feels like a horrific scene and it's got a lot of tension and it feels
oh yeah.
scary. But there's no actual creepy horror stuff for quite a while. Like, up until they actually get like lost in the woods and they find the creepy cabin. Like
Yeah.
up until then, it is just like, oh, they're on a hike and they're talking. And it's just all about the drama and how they're feeling and complaining. And they feel like real people. All their bickering and like making fun of each other. Like, oh, he's going to moan about his leg all the way back, or he's going to say this, or he's like this. Like, it all felt very real. They felt like real people.
Yeah, so that's actually something I wanted to bring up about the characters is like I kind of mentioned before, like there's nothing that really stands out about them, but like I don't mean that in a bad way. Like this is actually I think some of the most realistic characters I've seen in
Mm.
a horror movie in a long time. Like no one is like the standout character or anything. Like it's like you got like one like all right, this guy maybe complains a little bit more, but it's not like he's the over the top, annoying jokester or something, or like it's not like this guy's like the macho alpha male. Like they all like they're just kind of like normal people, and
Yeah. I mean, they veer into slightly different roles just kind of naturally, but they're not
yeah.
like. There's one who's kind of the leader, and he's the one with the compass, and he's kind of making the best like. Or not. He's making the recommendations. We should go this way. We should do this. We'd use
Yeah.
a shortcut. And it's
But
like
it's not in that like Hollywood way where
yeah,
he's like a superhero, like oh he's gonna be the one that saves the day or whatever. Like
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
yeah, like every group of friends kind of has the guy that takes charge, and like that's his role.
yeah. So they all kind of fill those roles, but they all feel like real people. So that's really good, and then that actually makes it more effective when the creepy stuff starts, and they're trying to rationalize it. They're trying to say, no, it's just this, and no, it can't be like no,
Yeah.
like. But then eventually enough stuff happens, and they start to accept what's going on, and that gets more interesting. So, but again, it has a bit more weight to it because they feel like real people up until that point, and they still do after that. But like the point I'm
Yeah.
making is those they just feel like normal people who get lost in the woods, and then shit happens,
Yeah.
and things go from there. Like I say, I think the ending, like I was worried, I was enjoying it a lot, but I was worried that the ending was going to ruin it. Like I had that feeling to me that like how they end this might completely kill it. If the payoff, if what it's building up to doesn't quite click, or if it feels like a whimper or whatever. And luckily, I dug it a lot. Like luckily,
Oh, nice.
I felt like it, it went in some places I expected it to, but at the same time, it kind of did it in an interesting way. Um,
Yeah. 'Cause my thought, if there was something that you didn't like about it, I would think that maybe you didn't like that they maybe showed too much. Which I can understand that because
hmm,
for most of the movie, there's it's creepy, but it is in a um, a little bit
it's what you don't
ambig.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like ambiguous. Like stuff is going on, but you don't really know what it is. And even by the end of the movie, it's not like everything is crystal clear. But they do actually show you more stuff than I was expecting, which I would have been happy, like, even if it ended like 5 minutes earlier or whatever, I still would have been floored, just because of the way everything was handled. But the fact that I do feel like they go that extra mile, and like you said, in someone else's hands, the stuff they showed you could have easily like just made you groan, but
Hmm.
instead in here, I was like, wow, I'm surprised that they went this way, but I'm happy they did. I really dug it.
Yeah. I recommend it. It's got a great sound mix as well. Like I said, the subwoofer was going nuts, but also just the quiet of the woods, and then like something would happen. I'd hear like a crow or something fly by behind me, or like like that kind of thing. There was a lot of that going on. So really, really, really good. Very atmospheric. Obviously, is the big key thing, and extremely well directed. Um, and like I said,
So
the main character has an arc. The main character has like this guilt that he's working through, and it's all about him not being a coward. So, yeah.
and they blend that really well with like cutting back and forth between like that kind of scene and stuff with what's going on in the woods,
Mm.
which I I wouldn't have thought like once the stuff in the woods was happening, like I wouldn't have thought like, oh, that we need to go back there, but I thought it actually played pretty well.
Mm. Yeah, thoughts on that in the
Yeah,
spoilers, because
yeah, yeah.
spoilers.
So let me ask you real quick before we go into spoilers, because I didn't look up the director. So does it say which segments he worked on in those other movies?
It didn't on IMDb, but I can
Okay.
probably find that out relatively quickly. I'll find out Southbound. I'll get Southbound up.
Yeah, Southbound is the one I'm more interested in, because I like most of the movies in that,
Yeah,
but
because
I'd be
because
interested in.
yeah, we really like that. Um, that was a 2015 movie, if I recall.
Sounds
Yeah,
all
it
right.
is. Yes, 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 yes. Um, so where are we? Oh, his was the best one. Well, from my memory, the accident.
Oh, that's the guy at the hospital.
Yeah,
Oh, perfect. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. He's arguably the best one of that. That was a
Okay. I
very good
mean,
anthology overall, but that was arguably
yeah.
the best one.
Because I mean, same thing with like, the last couple of years with like, It Follows, The Witch, Get Out. Yeah, this guy is someone that's definitely going to be on my radar now. That like whatever the
Yeah,
next thing he does, I am 100% on board for. I'm be very excited to hear.
yeah. I actually just looking up what his short on VHS was. Admittedly, it's been longer since I've seen that, and it didn't leave as much of an impression. So I'm actually not entirely sure.
Does it have a title?
Yeah, it's called Amateur Night, but I don't really remember what it is.
Amateur Night. It doesn't sound familiar. I think I remember this stuff from VHS 2 a little bit more. I think the first VHS there was the
Oh
one
no,
with like.
actually, I remember the twist of this one now. I won't spoil it for obvious
Okay.
reasons, but I do actually kind of remember how this one ended now. It was okay. I
Yeah,
mean, VHS wasn't anywhere nearly as good as Southbound overall, though. So,
okay.
I,
Well, yeah, I'm with this and Southbound though is enough to definitely give me the benefit of the doubt on this guy.
oddly enough, that short in VHS though had a spin-off movie.
Oh really?
Yeah, in 2016 called
Oh, okay.
Siren.
Oh, oh, I heard that wasn't that good. I never seen it myself, so I can't really.
Yeah.
Did he direct that as well?
Oh no, no. I don't think he had anything to do with it beyond
Oh,
maybe
okay.
like a credit of creating the.
Oh, okay. All right. So we
So
won't put that on him then, even if it sucks.
yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
no, that's cool.
all right.
All right.
Should we launch into spoilers? Because I feel like it's kind of hard to talk
Yeah,
about.
everything else
Like,
is super spoilery. So yeah, full spoilers then for the ritual. You have been warned. Okay, so I had no, because obviously I'd seen the trailer, and they obviously get to the cab and it's creepy. There's that like sort of like a straw model of something
yeah.
with antlers stuck to it in the attic, which freaks them out. There's the symbols everywhere, and I'm thinking, okay, it's very Blair Witch. What are we doing here? What's going on? It's kind of creepy. And then like and a few scenes later, obviously they all have their nightmares. One of them wakes up, pissing himself. One's screaming in his sleep. Obviously, our main character Luke has like this like weird flashback memory nightmare of the the attack again, and then wakes up with like a sort of like cuts on his chest, making a symbol.
And
And
I
the other guy's like naked and praying to the
yeah,
effigy in the attic, which is obviously very creepy. But it's okay. So that's still filling into my okay. It's kind of like Blair Witch, and that's fine. Like it's just so far, it's really well directed. Them finding the cabin, feeling uneasy, all of it was really good. And then they're in the tent at night, and you hear these big footsteps, this big like these big hooves, just like And this is where my subwoofer was just going nuts, and I'm like, is there a monster? Is it a monster movie? And then as the more it went on, it kept playing more and more like a monster movie, and I'm like,
yeah,
all right, okay, where are we going with this? So that was impressive to me, and
yeah,
yeah, and I wasn't sure how much they were going to show of it. I wasn't sure how much they were going to hide it or whatever,
yeah,
and they do obviously at the end eventually do outright show it, way more than I was expecting to. And
yeah,
the first time you see it, and I think the reason why it works because I like the mythology with it because when we eventually see this village of people who worship it, they're like, oh, it's a god, and it's like it's the bastard child of Loki, and I'm like,
yep.
okay, all right, we're getting right into Norse mythology, okay, that's cool. But what I liked about it more than anything else, and why I think I liked seeing it once we eventually got there, was it had a really cool design.
Yeah,
Like it's obviously there's this giant deer almost in kind of places, and you find out that that effigy from earlier on was kind of the top of its head when it sort of leans down.
yeah,
But the part about it I loved was the face. It was
yeah,
like it was almost like part of its body made like a natural hood, and then inside the hood you didn't see any details. It was just black, but you saw two yellow eyes. It was
it,
just so creepy and unique. I liked it so much.
yeah. It kind of looked like a giant, I guess, kind of like an elk creature, and but then like the front of it, to me, it looked like an upside down body, but then like the head was kind of like at the bottom part, and then yeah, like you said, it's kind of like this almost hooded part with these glowing eyes, and then the arms reaching out there, and it looks so cool. It kind of reminded me of like I feel like something you would see in like a BPRD comic or something.
Hmm.
Like it felt very horror comic to me.
It was very biblical and huge, and it also has this kind of thing where there's so much of like it's almost like a three because like most creatures on two legs you have like the one obviously they'll have a head but you'll just have like the one thing with the two sets of legs front and back
Yeah,
right. This felt like it had like three sections where eventually it stands up at one point and it's like it's got like the first back and then the second back and then the head
yeah, yeah,
when it's standing up and it's really huge and it ends up chasing because basically Luke's been chosen. The other characters have been killed off one by one. Luke's been chosen to join this group of people and worship him, and instead he like fights back. He sets fire to a lot of their effigies in this new attic where there's all these weird skeleton effigies where they start moving and talking, and he burns them all, and this pisses off the demon,
yeah,
the demigod, whatever he is, and we get the chase sequences. We get him like ducking and diving, and it's really good.
yeah.
It felt like they treated it with the respect of not showing it, just teasing it for the whole movie, giving it the presence, and then when we do finally see, because the first time we see its face, it's worth mentioning. It just like it's very sudden because like the last surviving member other than Luke, just they've put him up in the pod the totem pole, and he just opens his eyes and it's right there on his face.
Yeah.
And at first it's actually kind of disorientating because you don't really because we've been expecting something huge, but it's a close up of just this little face in the
Mhm.
hooded part. And you don't really realize, wait, this has been the thing. And then when you
Yeah.
see like the wide shot of it, you see, oh, it's just like this, the middle part of it, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then yeah, like when you look back at it though, there's been like a lot of foreshadowing of it that's really great. Like as they're walking through the woods, they see these like elk are impaled but they're like high up in the trees and it's kind of
mm,
like what like how first of all, what would do that? Second, like how could something do that? And then yeah, like you said, there's a part where they're hearing footsteps and stuff and um so yeah, you're getting this kind of sense that there is this monster, but it's kind of before you see it, it's almost like unimaginable, like to be like, well, what is this thing? Because yeah, you have the hints of things getting stuck like high up in the trees, loud footsteps. You see this kind of effigy in the cabin, but like it'd be hard to kind of put that all together in your head. And then once you see it, it's kind of mind blowing. Like, oh my God, this is it. And it's so unique. Like I can't think of any other horror movie that would
Hmm.
have a monster like this.
Yeah, it actually kind of lives up to the potential of this weird
Yeah.
creature that you couldn't have imagined,
Which
and then you get the full on chase sequences with it, with Luke running away
yeah.
from him.
I feel like most movies it would either go like um yeah, they won't let you see it, or you'll just see the tiniest glimpse of it, or they will show it but it looks so stupid and then doesn't work. And then this, like, I think it's very impressive that it found a medium of that. It's like, well, no, we're gonna hold back, but eventually we will show it to you, and when we do, it's gonna be satisfying. It's not gonna be cheesy. You're not gonna roll your eyes. It's actually gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and the effects mostly look pretty good. Like, they mostly hold up.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I never looked at it and went, oh, CG. I was saying, like, no, they
yeah,
saved their money.
yeah,
They shot so much of this, and like even if they went to Sweden to do it, and I think they did. I mean, at least if they didn't, they found really nice looking hills, because when they're
yeah,
hiking, it's like that's really nice. I don't know what it is. But something about the Nordic countries always look really nice on film. They always have this nice
yeah.
atmosphere. This obviously brisk, crisp air, this cold air, but with the vistas and everything feels very kind of lush.
Mhm.
But again, in a kind of colder way, not in like a sort of tropical way. Uh,
Yeah. Do you think they probably? I don't know. This might be a dumb question. I don't know much about filmmaking, but do you think they like used a lot of natural light on this, or like
oh yeah,
in the outside shots? Like,
when they're outside, absolutely. But
yeah,
when it's nighttime, not it won't be.
yeah, yeah.
During the nighttime, they'll have big floodlights and stuff like that to light things up and
Yeah.
what else. Um,
But yeah, like, it gives it a nice look to it. Like it was almost like it's kind of dreary, but I mean, I guess maybe that's just that region. I guess you don't really think of like big, bright, sunny, uh, spotches and everything. But it gives it like a nice feel, like because that's kind of the tone of the movie. Like you said, they're taking this trip, but it's kind of a somber trip. Because part of it is to memorialize our friend, and that's you get that kind of feeling like outside where it's like, oh yeah, things are like a little, not like full on depressing, but yeah, it's also not like bright, sunny, and cheerful. It's like there's kind of like this under layer of sadness that's on
yeah.
there.
And the character who lasts longest with Luke, who sees the monster before he goes, Dom. He's the one who's the most antagonistic towards him. At one point, he outright says, like, this is your fault. You got him killed. You didn't, try and defend him. I mean, even at the start of the movie, he's the one who insisted on getting into the store because he wanted more booze. So he was the one who said, "No, let's go in. Come in with me, someone." And he went in with him, and then in fact, even that moment, see when they look over and they find the cashier, like, she's got like a bloody face and she's like
Oh
sort of
yeah,
sitting on the floor. Even that on its own is like a really well done, creepy little moment. Uh, but like, so he actually blames him. So there's a nice sort of arc with their kind of friendship where towards the end, when everyone else is dead, but those two, where Luke says to him to try and comfort him, "Look, I'm not leaving you. No matter what, I am not leaving you." And it's like, again, it's coming like full kind of like circle almost to, he's like promising him that I'll be here for you. I wasn't there for him, but I will be here for you. There's no way I'm letting that get to me again. Because that's the big thing with the movie, of course, is that ultimately he is overcoming his fear and and making sure he actually lives and doesn't, and not only that, but not letting, because that's the big thing is Dom, when they're trapped and they've been kidnapped by these people before the ritual actually takes place, Dom's like convinced he's going to die. So he's like, "Hey, tell my wife, I tried to get back to her and so on." Um, but then he says, "But hey, look, you run. Promise me you run and you live." And it's basically, don't let what happened eat you up forever. To get through it, learn
yeah,
from it, and be alive, basically. And so a lot of this is like, it's basically him going through the process of like accepting that he deserves to live, because he doesn't
mhm,
feel like he deserves to live for a lot of the movie. So the idea that he's willing to fight for it by the end and actually run from the monster, and obviously
yeah,
the big moment at the end where he kind of wins is that he runs from the monster and the monster's pissed at him, but he can't leave the forest.
yeah,
Because he runs out, he finally, because the whole movie we've been in the forest, we can't get out of the forest. There's one point where he thinks he sees the edge of the forest at the top of the hill, He goes over it, and then there's just more forest. And he's like so pissed at that point. But at the end of the movie, he actually runs out of the forest, and the monster can't come out. And he turns around and screams back at him. And for me, that was kind of like him saying, because at the start of the movie, again, he was hiding like around around the aisle where he was like behind the shelves, and he was hiding because he didn't want to get hurt. Here, this was him like screaming at the monster, saying, "Hey, I am here. I am not hiding." Like it was him like declaring that like, I exist. I am here. So good character. I mean, it was simple. It was just a simple story of like getting over guilt and cowardice, but it worked.
Like,
it was there.
Yeah, sorry. Like I was just gonna say, like you can see the monster as like a manifestation of his guilt, and then the end of the movie is finally him, running out of like this dark part of his life, and finally like escaping into the light, and then just kind of looking back on, that guilt and that like pent up like sadness and everything he's been feeling, and kind of just looking at it and basically saying like I did it, I escaped.
Yeah, screw you. Yeah, I did this. Even just the idea that he would like maybe feel that his cowardice is going to end up getting all of his friends killed, and they all die one by one. Like, if you want to look at the movie like not really happening, like this is all in his head, like just to get him through the pain of it and the like all the guilt he has. Like, I mean, he could if you wanted to. I don't necessarily think it is, but because why would why would they think up some of the crazy stuff that happens? I don't know.
Yeah. Like it's really simple, but it works on these different levels. Like it is just an awesome, creepy, scary woods monster movie. But also the fact that there is this kind of underlying, character motivations and this kind of story you can like appreciate on that level.
And that's why the movie ends there, because after he screams at the monster, he turns around, he starts walking, and you see that there's a road, because you see a car driving, so he's near a road, so he's near civilization. So you know enough to know that he's going to get back and he'll be okay. But it just ends right after the screaming, because that's the end of the movie. That's the end of the story. He figuratively he got up from behind those shelves and he screamed at the bad guy. That was he did that at the end of the movie. Journey complete. Roll the credits because we're done. And it's interesting because obviously throughout the movie he keeps having these nightmare sequences where, and it's implied that there's something kind of real to it where, like, because at one point when he's being chased by the monster, actually at the end. Much like some of his nightmares, part of the forest becomes the supermarket or the store where the shelves will appear in the forest and the lights appear.
And just like visually speaking, I think that just looks so cool and like unique. Where it's part forest, part convenience store, especially towards the end when the monster's chasing them and kind of like, like as it's chasing them, like destroying it.
Because it shifts. Because earlier on when he first has the nightmare. It's like it's just a convenience store, but the ground happens to be dirt. It happens to be the forest floor, if you will, but it's otherwise the store. But at the end, when he's chased by the monster, it's just the shelving and the lights just kind of spread out in the forest. They're just kind of there around. And the way I kind of read this is that the idea of the monster has more to him than just a physical threat, where these nightmares that we're having were all being inspired by their own deep fears, but the monster's power was doing that, and that's why he was kind of like seeing these things and seeing like the worst night of his life, basically was manifesting in front of him. So.
Yeah, and like you kind of get the sense that he's doing something similar to the other people, but it's not really their story as much.
Yeah, you don't get to see what they're seeing, but you get the sense that he's doing it to all of them. Yeah, they're all having this. Almost Lovecraftian thing where it's like getting into their head and making them like live their darkest fears and see their worst nightmares and all the rest of it. So was again is something that makes the movie work. It gives it that extra little level on top of the just the was a monster chasing us.
It's so good. Actually, just like I kind of just want to watch it again.
No, it was a nice surprising gem. Yeah. It's nice to be this enthusiastic about a movie on this show. I feel like so often, and obviously sometimes we'll do a classic, and obviously we're enthusiastic about those. But in terms of new movies, it's rare to be this enthusiastic.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't had anything super bad lately, but I feel like we had a long string of just kind of meh movies. So it's nice to have one that like, and maybe it helped that I feel like most of the movies I watched lately haven't blown me away. Like some have been good but not great. That maybe it makes this one stand out a little more, especially again like to come out of nowhere. Like I don't think I even realized it was supposed to be out. Like it
I mean,
was.
I think the last one we were pretty positive on, to like a new movie, was maybe Happy Death Day. We really
Oh yeah,
both were
yeah.
into that. We're very positive on that. But yeah, so it's just it's nice to feel this positive about a movie. Like I say, the monster looks cool as shit. They tease it and build to it at a proper pace. That by the time you see it, um, it's the right time to show it, but it's also it actually pays off visually. You're not going, oh, this looks stupid.
Yeah.
It works from a character level. It's really well directed. There's a lot of creepy moments, a lot of creepy sound effects, some great visuals. The first moment when they catch the deer that's in it's up in the trees, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
like, oh, did a bear do that? It's like, oh yeah, did bears do that? It's like, how did a bear put it up that high? And they're questioning it. Um, right from
So
that moment, it's just creepy. It never stops being creepy.
yeah.
It's got that sense
I
of dread throughout the whole thing. So I suppose we should rate the movie out of 10. So Tim, what would you rate it?
uh again, I liked it a whole lot. But I do, have that thing where you see a really good movie for the first time and you got that little bit of high afterwards. Like it's only been a few days, so I don't want to jump the gun too much and be like, oh, this is a 10. So like I'm gonna give it an 8.5, very good high score. But I will say that this is definitely one I'm gonna watch again, and maybe once I kind of let my new high excitement clear, I can definitely see this maybe being bumped up to like a 9. Who knows, maybe even higher, maybe when I reflect on it. But for now, I'm gonna temper my excitement a little bit and just give it an 8.5.
I'm around the same score, although I'm going with a solid 8 for now.
Yeah,
Very good. It might rise up a little bit with repeat viewings down the line,
yeah,
but for now, I think it's a solid 8.
yeah.
Uh,
I know I definitely will watch this again. I'm not sure when, but it like right now, yeah, they just put it on Netflix, so it's very easy to watch. But this is definitely one that I would want in my library. Like, once it's out on Blu-ray, especially if it has like some good special features and whatnot, I'm definitely gonna want to pick it up.
hmm. But that is the ritual. What I thought was going to be a purely supernatural movie ended up being more of a monster movie, but with a cosmic horror kind of like twist. I say cosmic. It's not really cosmic, but it has the same kind of
Yeah,
effect. But it's
I
yeah. So
I
bastard son of Loki.
That's great. I kind of feel like this is the Blair Witch movie that I always wanted. Like, I like the idea of Blair Witch, but I don't feel like any of the movies necessarily like, you know, nailed it that much for me. And I feel like this was, the closest to that kind of movie that I wanted. Like, yes, like I love, people lost in the woods, creepy stuff going on, and yeah, great.
Well, I love the first Blair Witch, so I mean I'm not going to say that so much, but there's definitely comparisons to make early on. I think once it gets going deep into it, obviously it gets very different, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh, you know, so no, that's the ritual. So of course, let us know what you thought of the movie if you've watched it in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. There'll be a link in the description for that. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.